Hi, this is Shannon Elliott with Teachasana, and today we're going to talk about Urdhva Dhanurasana and how to help people set up foundation and get into the pose using the back bend and creating the back bend more from the upper back, where the tendency is that people dump into the low back, which is that need to come down and hug your knees in, and it causes pain for people. There are lots of things that could show up as well, right, like wrist, shoulders, and things. So first we're just going to talk about the basic setup. So when you have your students come down, right, as they lay on their back, so feet hip distance, okay, feet set to straight. There are some tools, right, because we want to have the feet set to straight, and for some people when they come up, right, immediately their feet turn out, which dumps you into your low back. So for someone that you just can't get their feet to not turn out, there's a couple different things that you could do. You could put a block in between their feet and ask that they hold themselves to that block so that when they're coming up into their wheel, they have a point of reference to know that their feet are not moving. Something else that we often will do, and this gets it into the low back, or gets it out of the low back as well, is that we start to use the inner thighs. So once you have your feet straight, okay, you squeeze the block with your inner thighs and keep the block in between the thighs so that we power through the legs, because we also tend to go through the arms. And all the weight, because that's our focus, is to straighten our arms, more of the weight goes into the arms and we forget about the legs. So squeezing and pressing down through the legs will balance out the pose more. Okay? And then when we place our hands, I like to have, so another strong tendency that you'll see is that the fingers turn in. Right? So we place our hands, and I like to give them a little space. So they don't need to be under the shoulder and way in. If you turn them out towards the mat just a little bit, okay? It's not like a straight fan out. It's just a little bit of an angle towards the outer edges of the mat. And then just to get the feeling of what it's like to plug in, elbows up to the sky, and then as if someone was pressing down on your elbows, right? Not shoulders away from the floor and armpits flying up, but instead elbows down to the shoulders and hollow out the armpits. And that starts to open the chest so that they get what that feels like. And then feet straight, press the feet down. Maybe you have the block in between, okay? And then squeeze the block with the inner thighs. Press down through the legs, the hands come onto the crown of the head and pause. This is the part that most people flip past. And they just go from here, right? And because they can, they straighten their arms, like just flying up, completely unplugged. Okay, so it's kind of a backup for some of our students, maybe, for those that straighten unplugged. Okay, but we want to really convince them the importance of building foundation. Okay, so feet straight, squeeze the block, press down through feet and hands, okay, and come onto the crown of the head, pause. Okay, now once you have that, you're going to have students whose elbows go out to the side. So elbows in so that they're over the wrists. And then as if you're pressing elbows into shoulders, hollow out the armpits, lift the shoulders up, that's the plug-in. And then you press down, claw fingertips and feet, strong legs, strong arms. Okay, and then for those students that have a hard time, right, getting onto the crown of the head maybe, or even have wrist issues showing up, or have shoulder stuff, low back stuff, we can use the props, okay, blocks at the wall. So there's a couple different ways that we could do this. On an angle is nice because it gives them the freedom to not have such extreme flexion through the wrists, which really is helpful for a lot of people. So we'll set them up the same way, right? Maybe you use the block for the reference of the feet or the inner thighs. You take your head all the way to the wall. Okay, for someone that has wrist stuff like pretty heavily, you can have the fingertips. So blocks on an angle, the fingertips underneath, and you press more of the palm of the hand into the blocks. Press down through the feet, you come up the same way. Crown of the head, pause. A little close. Okay, crown of the head, pause, elbows in, right? Plug in, press down, lift up. And then lowering, so crown of the head, tuck the chin, lower down. Okay, another way that you could do is that you have the fingers pointing down and the wrists so that they're right above, so that when you come up, the top part of your wrist will be on the block. Okay, you root down, all the same alignment, head to the wall, root down. Okay, come on to the crown of the head, pause, elbows, elbows to shoulders, shoulders up, pump the chest towards the wall, use the legs and the arms. And then down slowly, tuck and lower. Okay, and then one final way that often works, and sometimes it's just a preference, right? Some students are going to respond really well to this one. Some students are going to respond well to placing their feet on blocks and raising the floor. Okay, so here, everything stays the same. You just now have your feet on blocks. So just make sure that they're doing it on a mat. Okay, so here, you can get nice and long through the side body, get all that space, place the hands, fingers out just a bit, okay? Get them to feel, elbows to the shoulders, hollow out the armpits. Claw fingertips into the floor, press down into the blocks. Use the legs and the arms, come onto the crown of the head, pause. Okay, and then from here, elbows, elbows to shoulders, hollow out the armpits, lift the shoulders, pump the chest, press down through the legs and arms, and lift up. So just to review some of the alignment, okay? Feet straight. Okay, feet hip distance. Okay, plugging in. Okay, so in your Urdhva, elbows, elbows to shoulders. Pump the chest so that you're engaging the upper back, and this will give you the support to bring the back bend into upper back and out of the low back. And then whatever props you're using, right, knees stay aligned. We don't want to splay them out. That's where you would use the block in between the thighs to keep that connection. And then to use the legs as much as the arms as you straighten. So we build from foundation up, get the plug in. Once they have the plug in, whether they're using props or they're using their hands on the floor, then the invitation to straighten the arms. Okay, I hope that you found this information helpful. Thank you so much for visiting us today. Namaste.